Hi, Sonya.
Hi, Tatiana. Lovely to see you.
So good to see you, and I'm so excited to have you with us today. In
Thank you for having me join you.
yeah, so it's Sonya Batchelor is quite an inspiring leader. It's you had such a exciting career, really, for almost 30 years in oil and gas as a senior executive, and now you chose to follow your heart and your purpose and you literally giving back by serving and by developing your career in a charity service and now as an interim CEO of One Can Trust, making a big impact and supporting people who don't have the privileges that some of us have. And
That's
of
right.
course, you also serving as a trustee on various charity boards and also on NHS boards, which is amazing. NHS needs people with like you, Sonia.
Thank you. Yeah, no, so it's been a fantastic shift, right? So from the corporate world to the charity sector and healthcare, quite different. And I have you to thank, Tatiana, as well for one of the adapter courses, which enabled me to sort of listen within, to truly, as you say, listen to my heart in terms of what it is I want to be doing and embrace my intensity in an entirely new direction for me, which is, yeah, as you say, giving back to those that need it.
Wow, I love it. And for me, you see, intensity is also like when intensity is healthy, it's very much connected to purpose and very much rooted in self-trust, like kind of coming with this energy of nothing to prove. So you being on this purposeful journey is quite impactful, quite impactful. So what do you notice is different between
Yeah,
you as a leader when you think of yourself in back in oil industry, and also your leadership journey started much earlier. You were, I wanted to highlight that you were actually, as a young person, you were competing in Australian Junior Open in tennis, so you clearly, that takes a lot of energy and a lot of intensity. So what I'm curious, how what changed for you and how you perceive your energy and how others perceive now that you shifted from oil and gas to charity work.
yeah, and I think the journey probably, I mean, it's been an evolution. As you say, you're right. Playing competitive tennis as a child, learning intensity, you learn focus. It's an inner drive, and for me, that's probably something I carry with me in terms of knowing when you focus on something, you can achieve it, and that visualization of what you want in life followed my corporate career, and I had a fantastic, but I would argue, career. Like really, in my a lot of people call me highly energetic. So my energy, as you call that, energy and intensity, I see very, very similar in terms of that the word. And for me, the energy in my corporate career was always how can I, how do I deliver value? What is it? What value can I bring here? But in the last, certainly over the last year, to consider vocationally, I don't think I've ever had a vocation till now. And that, for me, a vocation is then something that you truly feel passionate about in terms of the cause. And this
Mhm.
is helping people. That to bring the intensity to that is
Mhm.
almost with a new level of calm, the same amount of energy and passion that I probably had in my career, but coming from a different energy of itself, an energy from a different energy.
Wow. So basically, the difference is that there is passion existed already then before, and yet right now it's. I love the more calmer aspect of that and being in service of others. And of course, when you're a noticeable person, like you're tall, you're outspoken, when one walks in the room and Sonia is there, it's impossible to ignore you, right? And and also carrying this passion. I'm wondering whether you have observed in your life, in your leadership, when it kind of goes more into tunnel vision, or in what I call, it's one of the version of toxic intensity, but sometimes it's not that extreme. Toxic is quite a sharp word. It's like, it can be literally, we're so focused on something that we don't notice things around. I'm wondering how have you handled it in your career, in your life?
Right. I have to give kudos to my husband, who notices when I'm energetic, I start speaking rapidly faster, Tatiana. So I get so uber excited and I get so into it, and you're really holding on to something, and it's realizing, actually, bring it down. Calm down. And with that, it's not as intense for other people, right? And for me, that can come across a bit toxic if you're just so grappling or so intensely onto something. For others, if you hold it more loosely, you bring them with you, or they may listen more or be more engaged than somebody that's just gripping at something. So I think for me, it's been a journey to hold it a little bit more lightly and realize you can't control everything. And certainly, again, back to tennis, you try and control your own thoughts, your thinking, and when you're not. So I did burnout from tennis. I do not play anymore. It was a complete utter burnout situation, and I think that I've carried with me to make sure I'm mindful when I'm in those burnout phases, that I can step away and realize that it's become for me toxic. That I'm no longer there. It might be that my heart, my soul aren't quite there, and then that generally you can feel your body shifts with it. It can impact your mental or even physical health. So one I'm very, very mindful of, Tatiana.
So, you're saying a couple important things, Sonya. Well, first of all, I love that you highlighted your husband is almost like, in your inner board of directors who notice the signals, because I always ask my clients, like, who in your life can notice the first signs of, might be exhaustion, or like first sign of, this toxic intensity showing up, and recognizing it. That's when we speak faster. It sounds very familiar. Like, okay, let's just slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I might hear something else.
Yeah.
That's really powerful. And then another point that you highlight is your journey in tennis. So that, in my previous conversation when I was speaking with Ara, Dr. Supe, he highlighted that actually the best tennis players, while they're really focused on a, ball, especially when it's a match ball, they're also able to, they don't grip their tennis racket too hard, right? It's more.
Yeah, I mean, even when you toss a ball, you have to hold it lightly, right? Like everything is very light, and I think that was in tennis. When you knew you're getting anxious, it wouldn't be smooth, right? So I think there's definitely the same absolute applies for me if you're standing on stage and if you're about to present, or if you're talking to a team, like whether it's stage fright, whether it's whatever it might be, you can certainly feel, when you tense up. That's for me that probably hitting that toxic, the performance peaks probably expired and you're not in that optimal performance area. It's
So that's fascinating. There is like some back sound. Actually, I'm very much aware of that. Can you hear this back sound? No.
not my
Okay.
side.
So, okay, great. So what I wanted also to ask you, how have you applied it in your career, really? Like, were you already aware of this dynamic between when you were playing tennis? Oh my gosh, I'm becoming anxious. I'm actually going to calm my nervous system. Or were you aware then about that?
I think through my career, there's been times that others have noticed me in stressful situations, and then it does remind me of the days of tennis, right? So it's step away. For me, one of the biggest thing is, how do you take a moment, step away, and do some breathing, right? Just and reconnect. So that's probably for me the big item. I also will have to go outside and get air. Like I do get energy from air, right? So that's what I've learned, certainly even more recently, really highlighted with you and some of your colleagues, is my need to just get outside and feel some space, have space, right?
Mm.
Feel space, more grounded in that regard. But also, if I know that my eating habits have changed, bringing them back, right? So, or if I'm noticing I've given up some of my, regular fitness, go, okay, some of those things you realize I'm on a downward trend if I don't get my regular exercise, so I'm not watching what I'm eating. So that has been probably consistent across the decades, Tatiana, from my side. But I think alongside those, I think for me now, most powerful is truly appreciating to take your energy to something you want to really be doing and being more guided, whether you want to call it spiritually, whether you want to call it listening to your inside, listening to your gut, whatever I would call that. And having that courage recently to do that has honestly made me feel lighter, right? And I think that probably also has reduced the stress and the anxiety, because every day I get up and I'm excited by what I'm doing. I'm not, there's this purposefulness to all my activity. And I think that is grounding in itself, and a breath of fresh air. That this is every day I am making a choice to be actively doing what I want to be doing. And that's really liberating.
Wow, it's amazing to see actually being on purpose grounds you really and creates this much more grounding energy from that place of joy. So, and I'm wondering when you made this decision, because I know many senior leaders in corporate world, and it feels scary to leave that world and follow your heart, follow your passion. What helped you to find real courage?
I mean,
Make this change.
We were very fortunate last summer to go traveling with our children. We both left our jobs, my husband and I, and we took our children around Central America for 3 months. And I think to see the world and to escape the corporate world, to come back, I was then applying for, again, senior executive positions. And Tatiana, I just couldn't, every interview I was going to, every conversation I was at, I could hear my heart not being there. Like, it was literally this, I'm not wanting to be here. And I could feel my energy in the dialogues that I wasn't bringing that energy. I then noticed when I was having conversations with charities, the energy that I was feeling and the excitement that I had when I came home and would tell my husband Andy all about my day. And I was like, wow, this is incredibly different. And it was a big, very supportive husband. And I went, all right, we're going to try this out. I'm going to give this a go. And, I know it's hard to find your first non-executive role, but I was so passionate to support healthcare, and I'm so passionate about addressing health inequalities. I think that came through in my application. And then, did join as a trustee of where I'm now, Interim CEO. And again, I think things fell into place, Tatiana. It just fell into place with that really listening and just going with, I'm going to trust myself. And worst case, I'll reapply for executive positions and go back to what I was doing. But it's appreciating that we had the financial luxury and try this out, and we'll see where it goes. So a leap of faith, Tatiana. It was definitely a leap of faith.
Yes, and listening to yourself and listening to your heart, and I'm sure it's all the work you have done up to that moment to recognize those signals, right? And take the leap of faith. That's inspiring. And I'm curious because, of course, now you're really making an impact, and you say you're very passionate about it, and while it giving you calming energy as well. I'm curious, when we're sometimes in the middle of our passion, that also can create a tunnel vision when it's too much. How do you keep yourself grounded?
Yeah, and look, it is. It's. I mean, my charity is phenomenal, right? And I've got to the point where every weekend, I'm Sunday, and you're doing events, and you're really into it, and you realize, actually, I need to also conserve my energy, right? To give all my energy, I need to watch that as well. And I've got a very, very supportive board and a very supportive chair. And I said, okay, now I'm watching and I'm observing that I'm probably, tipping over the edge, bringing much to this. And I think that is, for me, taking a week away, taking your holidays to have that rejuvenation. I think a break away gives you more perspective when you come back in, and also monitoring my time. So
Right.
making sure that I prioritize my family alongside, again, with my family fitness and what how I'm feeding myself to stay on peak moments from an intensity point of view, right?
Yeah. So and as you highlighted your husband, it kind of holds this mirror for you at home. And I'm wondering, do you consciously also invite people to hold the mirror to you in your work environment so that they notice the signs, or is it more happening kind of automatically?
I mean, again, I've got a very, very receptive chair, and she's been absolutely brilliant, right? So we're able to have those dialogues in terms of what it's like as a charity. Also, recently connecting with other CEOs in the charity sector has been really powerful for me. To understand from others, especially others that have leaped from the corporate world to the charity sector, because it comes with its own challenges. It's not all roses. Its own unique, different type of people you're engaging with, different challenges in terms of challenges you have, and it's very more operational than I'm used to, this strategic high level world. So I think it's been fantastic to start building a new network around. So I think everybody needs somebody else, a peer or someone you can chat to have conversations when when things aren't quite as you hope they be, or our challenges of raising funds to keep the charity sustainable is not insurmountable, right? So it's a significant challenge to do that, and it's tough in the sector right now, really tough in the sector right now. So having others to bounce off has been really great.
Yeah, to building these networks, and also realizing what gives you energy, what drains you of energy, and when to take time to step back, right? And you mentioned that in tennis, you actually got burnt out, right? And you don't even now don't play tennis, which is amazing for someone who performed at very high level, in a country where tennis is such one of the main games as well, in Australia, right? So I'm wondering, what have you learned then that you
Yeah,
applied?
look, I mean, I'm very fortunate. Peter McNamara, one of the most Australian famous tennis players, was my coach, right? I had the same mental coach that Pat Cash had. So I ate, slept tennis as a child. Did that influence me? Absolutely. Do you get techniques of visualization, how to focus, how to drive that I apply? Yes. On my wall here, I have visualization words of things that I want for my charity, right? So I think there's visualization for me is something that I will take forever with me. Again, in tennis, I got to the point where I was questioning, am I playing for me or my dad? And I went to France for a training session for over a school period, and I did meet somebody that's now an elite, actual worldwide elite tennis player. And she was there with her father, and I was like, I was watching. I felt I was looking at a mirror, and I remember giving her a book I was reading tennis, and I handed her the book when I left and said, "Read this. Are you doing this for you or for your father?" Clearly, she did it for herself, because she went everywhere, and I probably went home and answered several years later. I actually didn't want to go down the track I wanted to go down. I wanted to go to university. I wanted to enter the corporate world. I wanted an international career. And I knew that my heart wasn't really on the tennis court. So I think most recently, again, I realized my heart wasn't there on the world. I love it intellectually. I love what I can bring. And, I love my non-exec director role. But from a day-to-day passion and vocation, I realized, like I'm giving up my tennis rackets, right now I'm picking up the charity sector in that space.
Wow. And I love this thread that goes through your life, that you being clear on whose dream am I actually living and following, and what is my heart saying.
Yeah.
and then taking this leap of faith and
Yeah.
following it.
Yeah.
So
No,
that's
in other words, intensity, right? And if I reflect on my journey, I've always been intense, and people go, why are you so driven? Like, I can never answer it. Where's that drive come from? But whether that's the tennis days, whether you're born with it or have it. But my mum had a diary, Tatiana, in that book after she passed away, reading her diary, and said, why is Sonya so driven? Why can't she just be? And that really stuck with me. And I've read that, after she passed, she's been passed away 8 years now. So, but reading that, it's that's probably been a bit it's really got to me going, okay, I do, and with intensity, I go after things and I chase things, and again, whether that's the tennis in me, the corporate world, but just being, Tatiana, I think that's what I'm holding on to now is how do you just be? How do you just be? And part of me goes, in this charity kind of vocation, you can be, because I'm not proving anything to anyone anymore in many regards. It's, yes, I want to have an aspiration to end world poverty. That's my aspiration. Whatever I can do to alleviate poverty and move in that way, that's the driven me. But day to day, just to be and to help the hundreds that we help each week helps me just be.
Yeah, wow. That's such a deep Sonia, because it's from those difficult moments when something so painful happens that we have to say goodbye to our parents or to our loved ones, and then you're reading this diary and this insight comes up. Wow. And it's like brings this reflection, and I say intensity exists in 4 worlds, as we live in 4 worlds, like mental, i.e. thinking, emotional, i.e. feeling, physical, i.e. going into action all the time, right? And then energetic, spiritual, where it's all about being. And when we are in disbalance in one of these worlds, right, or we are not aware that we're in balance, then that's what leads potentially to energy leakage, to toxic versions of that. So how do you now make sure that you bring more balance, like this? Obviously, when you read this mom's
I think I've always asked myself when I'm making choices, I ask my head, what does my head think? What's my heart saying? And what does my gut feel? Right. So it's always been, in anything I've done, I kind of always have looked at head, heart, gut to make those choices. Whereas it was really only, it's probably the start of this year, that I kind of wanted to understand the being, because head, heart, gut is still just sort of listening to your body. Yes, your mind as well within the body, the mind and the body. But I felt I needed to strip it back because it still felt head, heart to do something. And if I just stripped it back, who did I want to just be? And when I listened to that who do I want to be, it just to take some space, and it took some space out for me. 5 days out for me, no children, no kids, to have my own space and go, right, just being, stripping it back. And look, that's where this notion of the vocation, what it is I want to be, and that's an inspiration that can drive change, occurred. To me, and it wasn't a head, heart, gut. It was almost just being. That's who I want to be.
Yeah, and it takes real courage to create this space for being, actually, for listening to our being, and then the moments of serendipities arise, right? We start noticing them. They're probably always there.
Yeah, and interesting, a friend of mine was saying that, right? I had my 50th, Tatiana, last month, and my best high school, university friend from day one of university flew over, and it was her reflections, just whatever your reflections are, she goes, you've always been the same. Through you consistently, you've always helped others. You might not, just didn't know it, right? So, participated always. There was a thread of helping people, but of course my career just have dominated it. But the helping people and my work in the charity sector has actually been with me since I was a teenager. So I did Meals on Wheels in Australia for the elderly. I visited shelters with people with brain injuries. I helped, people with disabilities, physical and mental disabilities in my teenage years. And I'd forgotten all that. And you hit your 50s and you go, this is what I want, where I'm going directionally. And it was her saying that wow, this is, always been me. I just hadn't stripped it back to think about it.
Wow. And that's what those deep connections help
Hmm.
to bring, to bring those insights, because it's difficult to see in ourselves the others notice it much better, right? And that
Yeah, and now it's great to
it's
embrace that, right? And go, embrace this. This is me. This is who I am as a being. When I'm not doing, this is who I'm. It is me, and that's been wonderful to then go. Okay, I can put my energy, my intensity behind who it is I want to be.
Yeah, and that definitely serves the world when you bring, because intensity is a powerful energy of creation, and if you bring it to the direction that also serves the world, which and the whole thing is you have been doing it your whole life, and it's that's what is aligned with your values.
Yeah.
So how do you know, like, because how would you know even now, when you are in this space where you really connected with being and with your purpose, what do you think could shift you out of the balance?
I think what we're chatting about before, if you get so immersed in it and you start gripping it tightly, that's what I'm mindful of. It is making sure that I empower my leadership team to grow as well, and hold that lightly rather than getting too engrossed into the throes of things. So it's that understanding my strengths, my directness can get in the way. I've learned in the charity sector, my directness I need to play on and be mindful of, right? So I think it's more always having that mindfulness of how my intensity shows up, that it can become too direct, or that my intensity, my inquisition next might be, my interest might become inquisitive. My high level of energy that I bring, the passion and the energy, can be too intense for others. So I think, Tatiana, that's always been corporate-wise all the way through, being mindful of when I get really passionate, speeding up my pace, and those traits coming through is what I'm permanently mindful of, I think.
Yeah, that's insightful. It's adapting the style of communication and interaction to the audience without sacrificing self, of course, while staying in line with your true genius as well.
And look, we need funds, as I said, right? And then we're meeting philanthropists, we meet major donors, and not everyone's fascinated or interested in helping homeless people or helping those in financial hardship that need food bank, used clothes banks, and it's holding that lightly, realizing that everybody supports different charities. And you can get so wedded to the needs of people and eradicating poverty, but the planet also needs addressing. There's so many plethora of great causes to support, and I think that for Tatiana in my current role is always keeping cognizant of that. That my energy for my subject topic isn't everybody's subject topic.
So it's holding this wider perspective, and what I also heard you saying, it's being aware of the team that you are operating in, both of helping them to develop and be the stars, and also using them as a sounding board.
Yeah. And then we've got dedicated staff and 400 volunteers, Tatiana, right? So that's the most inspiring part of my role, is knowing that 400 people commit their time to support those in needs, and that's phenomenal to see that's the dedication of the community here.
Oh, that's very impactful. So, Sonia, what would you want to leave our listeners with as a advice in terms of how to connect with and channel this inner energy of intensity in a healthy way?
I think it's, again, for me, it's listening head, heart, and gut, but then taking an opportunity to be, right? If you strip those back and you actually just really truly listen to who you may be, I think that, Tatiana, if people can have the confidence to do that, give themselves the space to do that, and then realizing, taking a leap of faith to go in that direction, certainly from my side, it's led to a lot more happiness, and a calmer state.
Wonderful. And I would say courage, because confidence will come after.
True. Yes, yes.
So thank you so much, Sonia. I really enjoyed this conversation. Can you please let me know where our listeners can find you?
So if you look up the One Can Trust, Interim CEO at the One Can Trust, and on LinkedIn, just Sonya Batchelor if you're looking for me there as well.
So thank you so much. Thank you for your time, Sonia. I know you have a busy day.